Hey, happy Friday. How you guys doing? So guess what? We got a new podcast. This is our first time ever doing it. And me and my wife, Lindsey.
Hello.
We're going to be taking on some murder mystery things. And she's going to be talking about it. And I'm just going to give some commentary on the backside.
Well, it's true crime, not murder mystery. And we'll be plugging unsigned bands.
It's like, hey, true crime, murder mystery. Woo.
Well, some are a mystery because some are unsolved. Unfortunately, there's a lot of unsolved cases out there, but the one we're talking about today is solved.
So, yeah, we're brand new, even to podcasting and everything. So noob mistakes are going to be made everywhere. But if you dig us, hey, share us and we'll try to get some folks listening to what we're talking about.
Yes. So today's story is about the murders at Corpsewood Manor. But first, I want to talk about the time period that this case took place, which was in the 80s during the great and wonderful Satanic Panic. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to talk about cases during the Satanic Panic. And for those of you that don't remember this time or weren't born yet, let me enlighten you. Satanic Panic can be compared to the Salem Witch Trials of 1692. The panic was spread by fundamentalist, radical religious groups, and television talk show hosts in the 80s and 90s. People like Geraldo Rivera would try and convince the public that there was a whole underground network of devil worshippers and were kidnapping and sacrificing children and spreading their message through rock and roll.
The devil's tongue. Oh, my God. I got a quick little story about that.
Okay, go ahead.
So as a kid, I was raised, of course, in the 80s, and we lived that. It was just, it was spoken to us every day. The fear on just existing and trying to have fun as a kid was just, it was kind of, you guys are lucky. That's what I really have to say. And,
the younger generation,
yeah,
for sure.
The younger generation is definitely lucky. Us older folk over here, it was kind of a form of oppression, really. Like,
it was.
You couldn't just walk around and do whatever you wanted to, even if you're doing it safely. Like, you had to keep an eye out for that devil worshiper that's going to kidnap me. Little blonde-haired, blue-eyed boys named Jesse. If you're walking around a festival or something. So, and I mean, I kind of get some of that because, wild and crazy kid, you better stand by your parents and don't wander off. But at the same time, there's a fear there that was just instilled upon us.
Oh, I was scared all the time. It sucked. Because I was raised in that fundamentalist Christian household and went to church. And that's literally all they talked about all the time. Devil, devil, devil's here, devil's there. And you better get right with the Lord or the rapture's coming. And, so it was just a constant fear.
And anything you did, even if it was remotely rebellious or anything, you're going to hell.
Mm-hmm.
We get told that. So it's like the worst thing that can happen to you, that you've been told is going to happen to you just because, you misbehaved a little bit.
And tattooed people were just, the straight from hell. Satan themselves.
Oh, yeah. It was a rare thing.
That's just what I was told.
The only people that did that were devil worshippers for me where I was at, deep in the buckle of the Bible Belt, I guess you can call it. But honestly, I've always thought like, hey, if you have your ears pierced, it's the same thing. So
he has always, but there's all kinds of things that are, a quote unquote sin according to, certain beliefs that other religious beliefs think are okay. So, but back to the Satanic Panic. So, the Geraldo was convincing people that, rock and roll was spreading their message through their music.
It was Satan was living in his mustache myself. That was a hell of a mustache.
And that basically rock and roll musicians were responsible for the thousands of people that were murdered or went missing every year.
So hang on. Did you have that? Have you ever heard that tape that they had the evangelist guy and he was playing rock and roll music backwards?
Well, I remember that whole myth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were playing like the music backwards and it was supposed to be saying like all this satanic stuff.
Oh yeah.
It was like another one bites the dust. If you play it backwards, it's like smoke the smoke marijuana. It was like this whole thing. All these songs, Hotel California was written in 666 seconds. The whole thing or whatever. It was funny. It was like, we're going to put this tape out for everybody to listen to. That way you can come to church and give me all your money.
Right. I love how on Little Nicky, they were talking about, so was Ozzy like really putting out subliminal messages? And Little Nicky's like, no, but listen to Chicago. That was so funny to me. Oh
yeah, and that was probably closer there. Yeah. You had it right.
So back to, the theory and the myth was that all these missing children that were, or all the children that were going missing during this time were being forced into the satanic cult and they were sacrificed to the devil and all that crazy jazz. But the horrible result of this hysteria was that many innocent people were accused of crimes they didn't commit, spent jail time or imprisoned simply because they were different and listened to heavy music. Or wearing black clothing. So also that Satan was literally around every corner waiting to steal your kids. Rock and roll was the biggest target for this blame. Remember the subliminal message myth? All of it was bullshit. And raise your hand if your childhood was a lie. And statistically, most murders or kidnappings are committed by a spouse, a partner, or a family member. And in this week's case, we're going to talk about some senseless murders that happened in a very small town called Tryon, located in Chautauqua County, Georgia, in 1982, the year of my birth. All right, so I'm going to dive right into the story. So Dr. Charles Scudder was a professor of pharmacology. He had degrees in zoology, languages, and chemistry, but his PhD was in pharmacology. He also studied not trauma. He had some trauma later on. But anyways, he had also studied drama, music, and art, but chose to pursue his career in science. He had 2 failed marriages. The second one produced 4 sons named Saul, Gideon, Fenris, and Ahab. But I have to tell you, these marriages did not work because, in fact, Dr. Scudder was very gay. He was very eccentric, especially for that time. He kind of broke the mold a little bit.
So like an in the closet kind of Christian guy.
I'm going to get there. No Christianity whatsoever, but I'm going to get there.
Okay. Yeah, there's so many of those too, but
basically his marriages did not work out. He was with both women. Well, the first one was kind of short. The second one, he produced 4 sons, so he had to be with her at least 6 years. But I'm pretty sure it was a little longer than that. I didn't dive too far into his backstory other than the articles that I read and the several podcasts that I listened to on this case, because I love how everybody tells the story a little different.
Okay. Yeah, well, not that we care. I just think it's kind of funny, like the whole Letterkenny type thing. It's so hilarious at the same time.
The what?
The guy from Letterkenny.
Oh, yeah. Glenn.
Oh, Glenn. Glenn from Letterkenny.
If you don't watch Letterkenny or haven't watched Letterkenny, get on it.
It's good stuff.
Yes. Okay, so he was a very eccentric man. He dyed his hair wild colors. He even did purple. And he played a golden harp, had a pet monkey for a time, and had a pink gargoyle guarding his very, very old mansion. And his home was built in 1904, located on Adams Street on Chicago's west side.
So wait a minute, you got away with that back then?
Oh, yeah. It was still the 80s. You know,
Right.
I mean, this was actually,
So he had a cool old mansion though, so it was like
yeah.
the persona was just like it just fits everything.
He did not fit in with his colleagues whatsoever, but most people that, like I said, on the articles that I read and the other podcasters that I've heard talk about it, he was well liked by the people that he surrounded himself with. They had nothing but good things to say.
This is going to be interesting because I know nothing about this. So, and it happened the year you were born.
Yeah.
Where all the good shit happened.
So, all right, where was I? He loved art and was actually an excellent artist himself. And in 1959, he met Joseph Odom, who was 12 years his junior. And we're going to call him Odom because he went by Joey, but there's another Joey in the story. So we're going to call him Odom. So it will be Scudder and Odom. So Odom was 12 years his junior and only had a 5th grade education. He served as a cook and a housekeeper for many years and later became his partner. Scudder wrote of Odom once in Mother Earth News, and he said, quote, "He learned far more about the world than I had with all my degrees, and somewhere along the way, he developed a talent for whipping up meals to fit for a king." Now, I have to share this major fact in this case and explain a little bit. I have to reveal this major fact about Dr. Scudder. He was a member of the Church of Satan, which was started by Anton LaVey. And I do want to do an episode of that way later on because it's a lot. A lot of the podcasters that I've listened to that have covered that subject usually have like 1 or 2, 3 or 4 parts to it. So it's a lot. So he was pretty chummy with LaVey. But Satanism isn't what most people think it is. Members of the Church of Satan are actually atheists and do not believe in supernatural beings such as the devil or God. They pretty much believe in the worship of oneself and they believe you can pretty much do what you want as long as you're not hurting others. There is no devil worship in these practices. Satanism was actually what other branches of Christianity would accuse each other of if they weren't in that particular group, like Catholics and Protestants. They would go at each other like that. And if you were Catholic or if you were not Catholic and you were a Protestant, the Catholics would call you, you were a Satanist then.
Right. So people would portray that as being like a selfish religion, but at the same time, most of the Christianity religion is pretty selfish itself.
Right. So the word Satan actually evolved from a Hebrew term for adversary or to oppose. So the Hebrew root word of Satan is actually that. It's just to oppose. It was not a being. It was a term. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And Scudder would say he wasn't a member of the Church of Satan because of the membership fee, but it was revealed that he had sent a check for $50 to San Francisco on June 16th, 1980. A canceled check for the Cloven Hoof. That would be a really cool band name. But that was their newsletter. So a canceled check was actually found on his desk after his death when police were investigating. But when religion would come up in conversation, he would say he was a Satanist. So in 1976, Dr. Scudder was co-director for the Institute of the Study of Mind, Drugs, and Behavior, aka MKUltra. MKUltra is where they would experiment with drugs and the human reaction to them, such as cocaine, LSD, and marijuana.
So they're putting
and mescaline too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there was a lot. Oh, that's a whole big subject that we will cover later.
And they're just going to put everybody through the shit and pay them like $5.
Yeah, pretty much. And people were affected. A lot of people were actually tested unknowingly, or they didn't know what they were doing. So it kind of fucked them up for for a long time afterwards. But anyway, like I said, that's a whole nother episode. So Dr. Scudder was in charge of the experimenting on the effects of LSD. I don't know if it's 2.5 or 25, but it was kind of potent shit. And at that time, he was becoming disillusioned about his career. Like, he grew tired of the office politics and that students were no longer really interested in learning. He was pretty burnt out from working and the city life. His sons were grown and his neighborhood was turning into something he knows. So he decided to purchase 40 underdeveloped acres in Chattooga County and live completely off the grid. He wanted to be surrounded by nature and isolation with Odom and his 2 bull mastiffs, Beelzebub and Asenath.
Doggy dog.
But Beelzebub, you have nothing to say about Beelzebub?
Well, that's a good name for a dog, I think. I'm not creeping in his house at night, knowing that old Beelzebub's hanging out in there.
Has the devil put aside for me? For
somebody, yeah.
Okay. So on his 50th birthday, Dr. Scudder resigned from his job, then sold his house and most of his possessions. He packed up a camper and a Jeep and headed out to their new property. And while trying to find their property, there was a pretty bad ice storm going on. I didn't even know that ice storms happened in that part of Georgia. But
oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in one around that same area one time. Well, I was in South Carolina.
I guess that's pretty north. Yeah,
I was in South Carolina. I watched the ice storm, and it literally made the power lines literally 6 inches around. It was like you watch the ice actually grow. It snapped down that fast, and it was still raining at the time. Like, trees were breaking, power lines were falling. Like, you looked up and you seen 6-inch cables now up there. It was insane.
Well, so they were driving around this underdeveloped, property that they had purchased. Definitely got lost a few times, but finally found the trail heading up to their hilltop. And while they were on this trail, they were delayed for a little while because blocking that trail was a decaying dead horse. And so they named that trail Dead Horse Road. They were both pretty quirky and had very dark senses of humor. They were Dr. Scudder was a super big fan of the Addams Family. And I'll get into a little bit more of that later on. But yeah, they were dark and funny, like us a little bit. But
not really like us. But.
Well, you know what I mean.
I mean,
as far as their sense of humor goes,
I have a feeling some shit's going to turn loose here in a minute.
Oh yeah.
They have relocated.
They have relocated in a state that does not
under the radar.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, and like I said, they were trying to live off the grid and be isolated, but they still had to go to town. They tried to make it every 18 days.
So they knew
they would go get supplies.
They were just too damn creepy to be around everybody.
Pretty much. Well, I wouldn't say creepy. They were just different.
They were like,
but I don't think Georgia in the 80s was the answer. But anyways, so while living out of the Jeep and the camper, and of course off the land, they built their mini mansion by hand after reading a book on how to.
Holy shit.
Yeah, brick by brick, and along with a 3-story chicken coop. It took them about 2 years. Yeah, 3-story chicken coop. Well, I'll go into what all was involved in that chicken coop, but I know.
They separated the birds too.
Hold on. Wait, let me get there.
This bird's more satanic than the other one. It's going to be closer to hell.
No, they were, they weren't that deep into it like that. Yeah, they weren't. But like I just said, they were Satanists. They didn't believe in hell.
The devil's chicken coop.
Or they didn't believe in the devil anyways.
I wonder if it had its own bathroom too. Nice. Chicken
coop. Okay, so it took them about 2 years. But after they were finished, they had what they called an elegant small castle. They created a pump system for water, cooked on a wood stove, and they had an outhouse. They wanted to live completely without utilities. So they had zero electricity. They didn't want to owe anybody anything.
So they should like the Beverly Hillbillies more than Adam's family.
Yeah, but without the gargoyle and Asenath and Beelzebub. I guess
Satan's version of Beverly Hillbillies.
Right.
Has done moved to Georgia.
So they had a vineyard and made their own wine out of fruits and vegetables. So some was great and some wasn't. But everyone that had some said it was super strong. They canned their own food, ground their own wheat, and they were beekeepers where they made their own honey and wax candles to light their house.
I want to try that, actually.
I know.
I mean, I don't want to get stung and shit, though, but I bet it would be fun. Do some beekeeping.
They had a beautiful rose garden, which was guarded by that big old pink gargoyle, and that was Odom's pride and joy, was his rose garden.
I beg your pardon. Y'all can go with that. I ain't promising shit.
The house had a library full of stuff from the occult. They had stained glass windows and 2 human skulls that Dr. Scudder had stolen when he resigned.
Nice.
And also 3 vials of the LSD 25, which is said to have contained 12,000 doses. So he was fully prepared to become at one with nature. But now, okay. Now over in that 3-story chicken coop, the first level was for the chickens. The second was for, I've read, either canned food storage or a porn library. So there's literally...
He'd rock out with his cock out.
Yeah. So, so, I mean, I've literally heard both. That it was either for canned foods or it was a porn library.
Chicken fucker.
But now, the very top floor was called, or the third floor, was called the Pink Room. And it was adorned with pink walls, pink shag carpet, and mattresses with pink sheets. And there was tons of sex toys, chains, BDSM style
Now
things.
taking the stage.
They would have a lot of parties, if you catch my drift, with friends from all over. Like he was like a super letter writing guy. Like he had correspondences with people all over the country. And maybe the world.
So, I mean, there must be some sexy ass bard rocks in there. Oh, no.
But everything, we make this clear, everything was always completely consensual. And there was actually a log book of people who had been up there in the Pink Room and like their sexual preferences, their names, all of that.
What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? Hey, let's go to the chicken coop.
Yeah. Well, it's the Pink Room.
The Pink Room.
It's the Pink Room.
At the coop. We got VIP. Chicken poop on me.
Oh my God, stop it. In the winter of 1982, they had probably been at Corpsewood, I want to say around 6 years, and in the house for about 4, because it took them 2 years. They lived in 1976. Okay, so they met a kid named Kenneth Avery Scott, who we will call Avery because that's what he went by.
That sounds familiar.
It does sound familiar. It sounds like we know somebody with that name. I don't know anybody with that name, but it just sounds like, it's very, well, we don't know them.
Sounds like Georgia.
We don't know him. We don't want to know him. They met Avery when he was on their property wanting to hunt, and they would get that a lot. A lot of people would ask permission to hunt on their property. So that's how they met Avery. And he hung out with Scudder and Odom. He befriended them and frequented the Pink Room.
Nice.
So some say there was sexual activity between them, but it's not confirmed. Not everything that happened in the Pink Room was sexual. That was just like their entertainment spot.
Hello,
so
Kenneth Avery.
They did not want people at the main house, pretty much.
Rub the lotion on your skin in the chicken coop.
The house was only for Scudder, Odom, Beelzebub, and Asenath. Now, Avery was only 17. And if there was sexual encounters, the age was not the issue. The age of consent at that time in Georgia was 14.
Oh my God.
But the illegal part was the actual sex. It was against the law to have sex with anyone other than your legal spouse. Period.
I got to say this. He's only 17.
Oh my God.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So a little later on, he's known Scudder and Odom for a little while now, but this is still in the same year that all the activity takes place. So Avery moved in with a guy named Tony West in November of 1982. Tony was an unemployed 30-year-old who had a very shady past. At 13, Tony had shot and killed his 2-year-old nephew playing around and thinking the gun was unloaded. He later actually escaped from prison at one time, and he also shot his brother-in-law. So both these guys had some pretty shitty childhoods and were abused, and for some reason, both of them felt like they were entitled to other people's shit. So Avery told Tony about the gay devil worshippers in the woods that made great wine and liked to share, and asked if he wanted to go hang out.
Want to go to the coop with me?
So after hanging out in the peak room with Scudder and Odom, Tony kind of gave Avery shit about it, questioning his sexuality, and that really pissed Avery off.
Like every red flag.
Oh, yeah.
All wrapped up in one pink room.
But, I mean, they were doing what they were doing.
Yeah.
We don't shame anybody as long as it's consensual. It's your business.
Yeah, but I mean, it's chicken coop. I mean,
I know.
this must be some badass chicken coop.
And it was in Georgia.
Yeah.
Oh, I have pictures and everything. We're going to share pictures on our Instagram of things that I've collected about these guys in their manner.
And I'm going to have fun editing all this because we are fucking up left and right. I love it, though.
Yeah, so y'all bear with us. Keep listening. We'll get better and better.
There will be a ton of effort put into this to get it decent. And I'm going to leave this in here so you know to after we do that annoying share thing right off rip, you do the same thing, and we'll get some people listening to us. Thanks for sticking with us so far. We got some cool shit at the end, too. So.
Yes. So
I won't interrupt. I promise. I've just learned.
Are you going to let me finish,
No.
sir?
Okay, go ahead.
Sir. Okay. So, okay, like I said, Tony was giving Avery some shit about his sexuality and pissed Avery off. And I guess he decided he had to, like, prove himself to Tony. So one day they devised a plan to rob Corpsewood Manor and kill Scudder and Odom. They were sure that there was a fortune hidden on the property and wanted it for themselves, because they were obviously rich in their minds because they lived in this, awesome 40-acre, property with a mini little mansion, 3-story chicken coop.
The Chickenwood Hotel.
Yeah. Oh, my God. So Avery and Tony felt like that shit should be theirs. The gay devil worshippers, they didn't deserve it. So Avery told, so Avery kept going back to hang out and kind of get lay of the land. But Scudder and Odom never let anyone in the main house, only in the pink room. But they continued to plot and even planned on, trigger warning, raping Scudder with a soldering iron. But thankfully,
I knew it was coming.
Thankfully, that never happened. Oh. But it was in their original plan. So there was some anger there because that's fucking sadistic. Yeah. On December 12th, 1982, almost your 1-year-old birthday.
Yay.
I was a mere babe. Okay, so in 1982, December 12th, 1982, the plan gets into motion. For some reason, they invited Tony's surviving nephew, because remember, he had already killed one. And this kid's name was Joey Wells, who was on his first date with a girl named Teresa Hutchins. Avery and Tony met up with them somewhere and asked if they wanted to go riding. That's what you do when you ain't got shit to do around the woods. You go riding. So later on, Avery said that Joey knew what they were planning, but Joey denies this completely. And Avery stopped at his mom's house to pick up his 22 caliber Remington rifle and said he was going to go rabbit hunting. Avery says to the kids, hey, y'all want to hang out with my buds over at Corpsewood? They'll give us some of their good wine. And, you know, most kids will agree to that because free booze. And
don't forget the chicken coop. Fuck,
yeah.
Don't forget that.
I mean, Teresa was actually a little skeptical because she had heard they were devil worshippers, but Avery assured her everything was going to be fine. So while they're, it's so funny to me, while they're right on up to the manor, they were huffing a mixture of paint thinner, alcohol, and glue called Toodaloo.
Toodaloo.
Yes.
I guarantee it. I fucking love that.
This
Holy
reminds
shit.
me
Here they
of
come.
that shit that Cat Williams talks about in one of his stand-ups where he's like, where he's talking about, he says, don't get fucked up with your white friends. Yeah, this is what you got to be aware of right here. Toodaloo.
Them white folks be doing some shit.
Tonight, we're getting fucked up.
We're going to do some fucked up shit.
Okay. Toodaloo. All right. So when they arrive at Corpsewood, Teresa would later tell police that Scudder treated them or greeted them happily and asked if he could bum a smoke. He told them to head on up to the pink room and he would grab some wine and join them. So they climbed up the 40-foot ladder to the pink room to partake in the wine and have a super chill time. Well, a little bit later, Avery said that he needs to go grab something from his car. Mm-mm. When he returns, he is holding a gun, and no one really seemed to care for a minute, probably because, you know, they had had some wine, chilling out, and from the records, it was kind of strong.
They were listening to rock and roll music, I guarantee it.
Well, they didn't have electricity. Oh, they did have I'll say that for later. Okay. So Dr. Scudder actually laughed and said, bang, bang. But then Dr. Scudder walked over to mess with one of the oil lamps. Because remember, no electricity. And then Avery jumps up, grabs him by the hair, grabs a knife from his boot, and puts it to Scudder's throat, demanding that he tell him where the money is. Mm-hmm. So Dr. Scudder tells him they don't have money, or they don't have money there. It's all in the bank. So then Avery starts cutting sheets into like strips. Like and I typed the wrong word here, so I had to remember what. So he was cutting the sheets into strips and uses them to bound and gag Scudder and continuing to scream. What?
I thought he was, that's what I thought he was going to use those for restraint. Yeah.
And Avery continues to scream, you know, where's the money? And Scudder says over and over, there isn't any money here. Avery demanded to know who was at the main house. And Scudder, you know, told him just Odom and the doggies. And Avery said, well, I'll go take care of that. So then Avery goes over to the main house to find Odom cleaning the kitchen. And then he claims Odom grabbed a gun. But in the investigation, the only gun in the house was put up in a closet on the second floor. So he was in the kitchen, which is on the main floor. He didn't have time to do all that.
Except for all the...
And he had no reason to believe he needed a gun.
All the hanging out guns in the chicken coop.
Yeah. So what actually happened was Avery screamed at him to get out of the house. But as soon as Odom looked up at him, Avery fired 4 rounds into him. Yeah. Several more rounds went into those poor, sweet, majestic doggies. Mm-mm. And they were found at what looked like they were sleeping curled up around the wood stove. But my question is, these are massive ass dogs. Like, why weren't they attacking this motherfucker? And I got to share a story about a Mastiff that I have from my past. One of the many times that my parents wanted to, were looking to move out of Lake City and back down to where we had lived for a little while in Lakeland. We were looking at a house and I wandered out to the yard and there was like, one of those big, huge outdoor sheds. And I was kind of young, but I peeked in because there was like a little crack in the door, and I peeked into that crack, and there was an eyeball looking back at me.
The dog was just like
straight out, like
I
from
got
the
you.
Sandlot when he looks through the
Those
fence.
dogs are actually kind of docile too. They're
Oh my God, but I was terrified because I seen this huge eyeball, and then the dog backed up, and I saw like the full, and I ran so hard, and like then like a whole minute later the dog barks.
Well, they were all about love and stuff. They were hanging out in the pink room too much. What was it? What
Beelzebub and Asenath.
Oh my God. Poor doggies.
So, and what, I think I have a theory that maybe they were like in mid-run, and that's when he shot him. Because he claims, like Avery claims in his
Fuck with them Georgia boys.
in his story, is that
they go hunting.
what he claims in his story is that he just fired wildly, and the bullets like ricocheted, and they just happened to hit Odom and the dogs. But I mean, the evidence just shows that it was close range, kind of point blank. And so meanwhile, back in the peak room, everybody heard these gunshots. And Avery came back and was like, yeah, I killed that guy and those dogs. And no one knew if Odom was actually dead or not at this point. And evidence shows that he had moved, like from his original place that he had been shot. So he just kind of bled out while he was trying to crawl out towards the door.
So it's a complete plot twist. Like, you're thinking that these Satanist people have moved in to do some shady shit, and they got done upon.
Yes. And just because these guys felt like they were entitled to whatever they had in their house.
Yeah, they were going to take them.
That they built by hand. I mean, left their entire lives to go out here and live in peace and harmony, and now it's not anymore. So then Avery and Tony lead Scudder into the main house, to go get that money that wasn't there. And as soon as Scudder was led into the manor, Odom and the doggies were the first thing that he saw. And according to Carissa's statement, he let out the most awful, sorrowful groan. And Tony and Avery were still demanding for Scudder to give up the non-existent fortune, and he persists that there isn't any money in the house. Then they ask where the soldering iron was. But Scudder was like, I don't have one, bro. There's no electricity here. So
Stab you in the face.
And also was crazy.
Iron.
While all this commotion was going on, they accidentally bumped into a battery-operated recording device that Scudder had been recording his harp playing on, and like reciting poetry over the harp playing. His plan was to record that and send it to a friend. And I listened to it, and I could just imagine that playing it, because it was like at full volume when they turned it on. So he's like playing the harp and reciting this poetry, and he has like this kind of creepy narrative voice while he's doing the poetry. I would be terrified and run if I heard that.
That is wild.
Yeah. I mean, it was
very creative, but still, wow, cool.
Oh God. So by Teresa's account, Scudder then shuffled over to Odom and looked down, and his last words were, "I asked for this." And then Tony shot him 2 to 3 times in the face and head. Wow. Scudder fell to his knees, but tried to get back up and say something else, but Tony fired again, which made Scudder fall into a bookcase, and then he tried to speak again, and then Tony shot him 3 more times, ending his life. Then Tony tells Avery and Joey to go steal whatever they could find, and Teresa just sits there in terror. They ended up leaving the manor. Listen to this. All they could find was a sack of nickels and dimes, a silver candelabra, which is the big one. It's not like a menorah, but it's the one that holds multiple. Yeah, it was like 4. Yeah, I think.
Some Addams Family shit.
Yes. Yeah, he literally, I meant to say that earlier. He decorated his house.
The whole house was probably like that. Well,
yes, he decorated his house in that style. He wanted to look like that. He even had a poster when you would, or like a sign when you would drive up, and it said "Beware of the Thing," just like Addams Family. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. So that was That was crazy. But so after they ended up leaving the manor with a sack full of change, so a silver candelabra, and a gold-plated dagger. And, of course, they stole Scudder's Jeep. They literally did something strange for a piece of change. And they didn't even get any of that acid. They didn't even know it was there.
Right. So, I mean, like, monetarily, they left with, like, what, $50 in coins?
Maybe. I'm sure his Jeep was worth more, but, you know.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, quick trade stuff. Like, they thought they were coming to get thousands. And
yeah.
So, murder.
So 2 days later, Scudder and Odom's friend Raymond came to the house to actually tell them about another friend's death. He saw the bullet holes in the door and went to the nearest payphone to call the police. And at this time, Tony and Avery were on the run. And Joey and his mother were literally holding Teresa hostage. They held her hostage for 4 days. And when she managed to escape, she went straight to the police and told them everything. Tony and Avery made it as far as Beneva, Mississippi, before realizing that they needed to dump the Jeep because it was actually quite a spectacle. There was, what is the other word for pentagram? Pinnacle. Yeah. There was pinnacles painted.
Conspicuous.
Yes. There was pinnacles painted on the Jeep. So they pulled over at a rest stop and found a Navy lieutenant named Kirby Phillips sleeping in his car. They pulled him out, handcuffed him, and led him out into the woods at gunpoint. They were going to just leave him in the woods and steal his car, but Tony, being all fucking trigger happy, shot him in the head 2 times, ending his life.
Murder spree.
Yeah.
And there must be some corn.
And talk about that guy being in the wrong place at the wrong time. You just pulling over to sleep.
Just snatching people out. It's just like,
yeah.
We're going to get in this one now, Grand Theft Auto style.
So after being on the run for a few days, they went their separate ways. And Avery actually ended up turning himself in on December 20th, 1982. And Tony followed just 5 days later on Christmas Day in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And Tony, in his confession, actually said they were devils and I killed him. And that's killed them. And that's how I feel about it. It's fucked up. So when police investigated the manor, they found lots of things to be kind of dark of the occult. And their home was very gothic and had books on paganism. And a few disturbing paintings. These weren't, they weren't bothering anybody. And people believe in what they believe in. But this was the 80s, and they were in Georgia.
And besides the chicken coop, like
the trial,
there.
It was a huge.
That would be like a really cool spot.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, well, X the chicken coop and the Satanist stuff. I mean, I would dig all the creepy gothic stuff,
Yes. Shortly after the investigation, the manor was vandalized and set on fire. When the trial began, Scudder and Odom were immediately labeled as homosexual devil worshippers, and the actual murder got lost in the gossip. After the LSD was discovered, activists tried to say that Scudder and Odom forced drugs on them, but Teresa refuted this. She said no other drugs were involved other than the Toodaloo that they had brought with them and the homemade wine that Scudder provided, and said it was not laced because she drank out of the same bottle.
Toodaloo.
She also said that at one point, Avery had looked at Tony and said something along the lines of, "Now tell me I don't have the guts to kill somebody." So this was definitely a premeditated, planned murder. Both Tony and Avery's defense tried to say that the wine was laced. But, of course, Teresa said that it wasn't, and it was tested, and it was found that there were no traces of LSD in the wine bottles, and the LSD vials were found in a cigar box on Scudder's desk and not in the pink room. Avery had confessed over 8 times before the LSD was even discovered. He didn't even know it was there. After it was discovered, he then tried acting like he was on a bad acid trip.
Oh, prosecution tried to help him out with that. Well, defense.
The defense, yes.
Yeah. Use this.
Yeah. Yeah. So he tried saying that he was on an acid trip while committing the murders. But when he was asked by prosecution if he knew the effects of LSD, he literally said, "Not till I was in here." Dumbass. At the trial, he was found guilty of all counts and sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences, and he is still serving at Georgia State Prison. Tony West was convicted of double homicide and sentenced to die in the electric chair, but the death sentence was repealed, and he is serving life at Augusta State Medical. A small private funeral for Scudder and Odom. Odom's ashes were spread over his rose garden, and Scudder's body was sent home to Milwaukee at his sister's request. People still go visit the ruins of Corpsewood Manor, and we want to go. I want to go. People think that they hear voices, gunshots, barking dogs, shattering glass, and the sound of Scudder's golden harp.
I bet that was just like one big Toodaloo fallout. It's just so jacked up. Like, we're coming in. We want all your money.
There's the chicken coop. I'm showing Jesse. I'll post pictures. That's the chicken coop.
That is lavish.
Yeah.
So it's literally
there's the
kind
pink
of
gargoyle
on the back of their house, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much, right? Yeah.
Or I would say even to the side.
That's
that was
a pimp ass chicken coop right there.
Yes. So that's what the house looked like. They built that brick by brick.
Holy shit! Yeah.
Isn't it amazing?
That's very cool. Yeah, check all that stuff out too. We're gonna put it on.
So that was one of the doggos, and that's Scudder there.
Oh, there's Scudder.
Mm-hmm.
And they look kind of. I mean, they look like some regular Joes. I mean, the picture looks old as shit but it's just the '80s. But yeah, they look like some regular Joes. That's crazy.
I thought I had a picture of Scudder and them together.
Some kinks though.
Oh yeah.
With that Toodaloo though.
It was their life.
You cannot get away from that Toodaloo.
So I have to share this to you, and then I'll show you a picture of it that we will post in Instagram stories. So one very mysterious piece of art was found that has to be noted. So months before the murders, Odom woke in the middle of the night and told Scudder he had had a terrible nightmare. It was so disturbing that Scudder said he had to paint it. The painting was a self-portrait of Scudder, gagged with 5 bullet holes in his head. And he died gagged with 5 bullet holes in his head.
So that's insane. Like,
hold on, I'm going to show you the painting.
The whole thing, like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's nuts. That's nuts.
So that concludes.
He knew it was coming. And he said that, didn't he? What did he say? He said that. Like
he said, I asked for this. So that's what I wanted to say. What do you think he meant by that? You think it was because, like, maybe him painting it, like, brought it out into the universe?
It's like how he wanted to go out, I guess.
But then that's opposite of what we believe. You know, we believe that if you talk about your dreams, they won't come true. But he literally painted it. And, yeah.
That's creepy.
Mm-hmm.
That's creepy. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, so obviously them boys is cornbread fed, like, sure enough, like country boys.
Well, actually they weren't hardly fed at all. Both of them came from abusive homes and did not have good relationships with their parents. I think it said Avery had to, like, start stealing just to eat at a young age and shit like that. So yeah. He was kind of living on the streets when he met Tony, and that's how he ended up moving in with him.
Wow. And that's a rural area, rural area. I'm sure, like, because they were wanting to be secluded and everything.
Yes.
So
it was off the beaten path, literally.
Like, these guys, like, look at this house, look at all this stuff. Like,
I mean, you see in the picture, it's beautiful.
Yeah, you would figure you were going to walk away with more than a bag of coins, you know, like.
Yeah, this is where this little area right here was where they would, like, sit and have tea.
That looks like southern Georgia.
It's Chattooga County.
I don't know where the hell that is, but yeah. Yeah, if anybody knows anything more about that, like, if you're in that area, you know, hit us up. And, you know, we want all your comments and feedback and everything. And we actually have a website. You can just email and send content and everything like that to our website. It's
to our email. We don't have a website yet.
Not a website. Yeah, we're getting.
We have a Gmail account. We're gonna get it all together.
Brand new Gmail account. Do that first. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Send everything, content and everything. We'll look at it. You know, send your thoughts. And we'll get back to you. But it's drink about something gmail.com, right?
Hold on one second.
I believe that's what it is. We're so
I gotta
new.
look.
So new.
Drink about something pod at gmail.com.
Yeah, a little bit of typing there, but hey, you got it. Big deal. But yeah.
So what band are you gonna plug this week? So Jesse and I are both very, very, very music activists. We love all genres, but our favorite is more on the metal side. Metalcore, death metal, all the genres and subgenres. And we like to go to our fellow unsigned band friend shows, and we're going to start plugging some of them, because especially the ones that we think you should listen to. But if you want your band to be recognized, hit us up on that Gmail.
Yeah, check us out and send us some stuff, and we'll plug it in there, and just keep sharing. That's what it's about. Like, the whole music scene community is huge in our area, and there's a lot of support, and we appreciate all the support that we get as far as just being a local band. And we have such a great time, a huge family.
Such a big family. I love our metal community.
And of course, we'll be looking for support from from everybody. That way we can kind of share your stuff too. And hey, send us some of those local unsigned bands. I like talking about them. One of my favorite ones is a good friend of mine, and Kurt from Defy the Tyrant. We hang out, and it's just like automatic click. Some folks, you're just like, all right, we're gonna play a show, whatever, and you say hey and bye or whatever. But like, some people just click like that, and he's a real close friend of mine.
But the band is Defy the Tyrant.
Defy the Tyrant is
and they have great music, great sound. You can find them on all platforms. We found those guys leaving one of Jesse's music projects. He was playing in Tallahassee, and that's where they're from. That's where they're based out of. And we were leaving that show. It was the Gain Street Fest.
Gain Street Fest. Yeah, I think they still have that. I think.
And we were kind of walking around, checking out some of the other bands, and they were doing a Rage Against the Machine cover, and we love us some Rage.
V-line toward it.
So it was instant love. And then
Stu was playing with them. He's still with them.
Yes.
And he was just rocking that guitar, and they were like on these this wooden pallet platform thing out on a side street, like brick wall behind them. The whole facade.
I don't think they had been together too long at that point.
They were brand new, and
and that was 2015.
So well, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going on loving those guys for about a decade now.
Yeah, loving them. They're really cool cats, too.
We try to catch as many shows of theirs as we can.
Yeah, any of the venues and booking agents, hit them up, and put them on. Take care of those guys, because they're still hobbyish. Nobody's really going to make, unless they sign, and we're all older, so it's kind of hard to sign a contract.
Yeah, we all got families and kids and grandkids, and
at this support level, like, if there is bands out there that are aspiring to get to that spot, it's not that hard to do. So, hey, if you're a cool ass band and you got something that's legitimately amazing, send it to me, and I'll forward it. I know some folks, and it's just a big network community. We hang out with. There's a lot of folks that are kind of in our circle that are just real big in support like that, and that's what we're about for sure on my end, and I think Lindsey did a good job,
Thank you, sir.
I got to do this. Hang on, wait. Like, everybody for Lindsey.
Thank you. Taking a bow.
Yes, and all these buttons I'll touch every once in a while, but I'm still so new. I didn't want to fuck with too much. But
yeah, it's actually like. Props to all the podcasters that I listen to. It was not easy just doing this one case.
So like
that took us
the
45 minutes to talk about
the content that you got, and so it's kind of like in your own way that you had gathered from other folks.
Well, I read some articles online. I actually read on the Church of Satan's website their account of the story. I listened to Morbid Podcast. Let's see, who else was it? Morbid Podcast, Southern Fried Crime, and give me just a second.
And there are a couple of cool Florida ones too, right?
Well, I didn't listen to any Florida-based ones for this particular case.
Uh-huh. Yeah, just the South has so much murder, and there's a lot of things just historically. I mean, you're going to find it everywhere, but like the structure that you put together on that was amazing. Was that original? Like how you brought in like the whole Satanic Panic thing, and then you were like, okay, well, these two Joes that just decided to move away from all the hustle and bustle and bullshit, they just, that they got done up, they, obviously they would have probably lived their freaky life in their own way, which would have been fine and probably wouldn't have bothered anybody. Right?
Oh, so I listened to American Hauntings podcast. That one was great. And
so the Toodaloo got them.
And the Lights Out podcast.
Okay, so check all those out, for sure. And it's just all about sharing. And we're so new to this, and like I said, the way that she just gathered up all of her content and put all that work into it, I thought it was really cool. Like I was kind of amazed. Like you told a good story right there, and I'm excited. We're going to do this again. We're going to try to do this weekly, and we want a little support. If you dig it, hey, just share it, and we'll just try to get some more folks listening in. And as long as we seem like we're moving forward, we're going to keep moving forward. And that's a thing. It's a hobby. We don't want anything from it. The little tune that I played, I got that off a Groove Pad, and I actually checked out all their legal stuff. So I was like, well, if you gather up two or more of the little things and put them together, it says that you can legally use them however you want. So that's really cool. Check out Groove Pad. It's just something that I just threw together for a little ding, 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 ding. We're gonna be like humming that hopefully here pretty soon. We're gonna be like juking to it, but it's quirky, it's funny, it's I'll put in my little 2 cents here and there, but I don't really know shit, and I don't want to know shit until now. And I like the story you told, Lindsey. It was really cool.
Thank you. And the next one I'll be covering is on the McMartin preschool trial. So stay tuned for next week.
See you guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.
big shout out to Father Tyrant. Much appreciated for the song. The audio we used was mixed with Baron Loud audio editor, and I also used Groove Pack for some of the little tunes at the beginning. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next week.